Hello, it's me, youtube.com/thoughtslime. Um, I recently got 1,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, and that's, if you don't believe me, you can look. Look down there. It's true. I don't understand why it happened, but it did. So to celebrate, I said I would do a Q&A video, and so this is that. I should mention I've never done a video where you can see my face, and I hate it. I can only imagine how you feel. I'm so sorry that it had to be this way, but I wasn't gonna fucking do my little drawings for this. It would have taken too long, and it would have meant that I couldn't do another one for that much longer. And so I thought this would be a good um, solution. But in order to facilitate it, I'm going to have to do that annoying thing where I do a bunch of jump cuts. I hate that too, but I don't know how else to edit this. So apologies in advance for that. But let's see if we can get it done. See if we can do this. Gwen No Fear from YouTube, whose channel you can check out in the description. It's a great channel. You should go. She's going to get demonetized if she doesn't get enough hours. So go ahead and just click her videos and watch them all, or I'll find you. Do you ever think about why it is that you have your present politics? And have there been any politically significant events in your life that you felt influenced you in any large way? Yes, Gwen, I think about that. I think it's important to consider your positions thoughtfully, and to change them in light of new evidence. Um, I think it's wise to kind of, critique your own ideas in your head. Obviously, not to the point of being paralyzed, where even if you believe something strongly, you kind of refuse to act on it in this fear of being wrong. But I think it is important to think about those things. If I'm going to be honest with you, no, there haven't been a lot of politically significant events in my life. I'm a pretty privileged person, so it's not like there's been a lot of strife for me. Um, I've worked a lot of shitty jobs where I've seen some pretty shitty labor conditions and some pretty shitty attitudes from people regarding those. Uh, but nothing really that bad has ever happened to me. Um, I did grow up with a single mother, and she explained to me at a young age about the wage gap, and uh, it was pretty infuriating to me as a 10-year-old boy. Still infuriating to me as an adult, but you never really feel the injustice of things as much as you do when you're a kid. Um, so I guess that. Sorry, I'm not that interesting. Bread Squad asks, assuming that, yeah, Left Unity is kind of a rigged game, do you still think there's some room for MLs and anarchists slash libsocks working together? Like anti-fascism and like anti-fascism, not anti-fashionism, fashion is fine, and trade unions and such? Yes, Bread Squad. I do believe that there is room to work with people, even if their end goals might not be compatible with yours. Um, to a degree, I think it's important for you to work with anybody who you might not necessarily agree with. Um, I don't think that libertarian socialists and Marxist Leninists want the same things. Um, I think that the reasons that they want the different things that they want are largely the same, but what their proposed solutions are wildly different and incompatible. So there is room to work with them, but you have to keep in mind that ultimately you'll have to come face to face with the fact that we're not really the same. they don't really want the same things as we do, and that's going to inform their approach on some things in a way that we probably won't like. So be open minded, but be assertive would be my advice. Okay. A bunch of weird symbols in a language I don't recognize asks, how did you become a narco communist? There's really not much to tell. I heard the basic ideas and then I read a bunch of books and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. This makes sense to me. Kind of explained a lot of stuff that I had intuitively thought. So that was helpful. Made me feel like I wasn't crazy. Uh, what thinker, if at all, have you read, right or left? And would you have any recommendations for books or articles by that thinker? I've read a bit. Uh, Not as much as I probably should have at this point. Um, if you're looking for a text that is like a good introduction, a lot of people tell you to start with The Conquest of Bread by Peter Kropotkin. Um, I'm not convinced that's the best starting text. It's a very good text, but it's not where I would begin for a modern reader. I would suggest The ABCs of Anarchism by Alexander Berkman, who was the longtime collaborator of Emma Goldman. Um, it's just a very simply written book that explains the the anarchist opposition to the state and capitalism. Um, and even if you're not of an anarcho communist tendency, I think it explains those things in fairly uh, broad terms that I think any anarchists of any stripe could probably uh, agree with more or less the the outline of the book, if not some of the finer details. Um, so yeah, that's where I'd start. Um, Thoughts on the EU? Kind of a bit personal, but how old are you? I'm 32 years old. Um, and I know that seems difficult to believe, but look at the gray. Look at the gray in my beard. 32. For real. I know what you're thinking. An anarchist can't be 32 years old. Anarchists are all 17. Not me. I'm 32, which makes me the second oldest anarchist in the world behind Noam Chomsky. So something to be proud of. Herman Isaza asks, and Herman, I'm just really sorry about the way I pronounced your name. I'm not I'm not very good at 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 reading names or knowing how to pronounce things, and I hope you don't take it personally. Would you wipe Steve Buscemi out of existence today if it meant that property would be abolished tomorrow? Catch is that you're constantly reminded of his great work, but can't remember any of his scenes, like an itch you can't scratch. Would you sacrifice the Garland Green for anarchy? Well, Herman, there's some things we don't joke about in this world. There's some things that are maybe more important than politics. So, first of all, you should be ashamed of yourself. Second of all, obviously it's a trick question because the conditions necessary for true equality cannot exist without Steve Buscemi on the planet. He is our one hope, and how dare you, and thanks for asking your question. Knowledgeable Reaction asks, how did you come across anarchist philosophy and what made you accept it? I kind of already answered this one, Knowledgeable Reaction, but it was really I really was probably just a lot of reading. Um, I think anyone who becomes leftist over time, particularly if you're coming from a liberal ideology like I was, a lot of what I now believe would have sounded like lunacy to myself even 2 years ago. So it was a lot of reading before I could kind of understand what a lot of this meant. But on the other hand, it also confirmed a lot of the things that I kind of felt intuitively, like the idea that, uh, you know, people who do a job can do the job better if people aren't breathing down their neck all the time was just kind of something I always felt, but kind of felt immature for thinking. And then reading that there were all these other philosophers that uh, agreed with that was heartening to me. 255 AD asked, "What's your stance on universal basic income?" I think it would be a good start. 255 AD. I don't think it would be enough, um, but it would be a good start probably. I don't know, because on the other hand, um, I don't really want people to be dependent on the state to live, and that seems like a good way for the state to have a lot of power over people. But on the other hand, they already do, and they have all of the guns and tanks and nuclear bombs. So, it might be nice to get a little bit of money so that you could buy food if you needed it. That would be good. So, yeah, if you, I give you my permission to have universal basic income. Eric Taxon asks, "What's your favorite Bjork album?" The first one. Eric, I'm sorry, I lied to you. I've never listened to Bjork. I don't know the first thing about Bjork. The Coal Baker asks, "Will you ever do a response video?" No, probably not. I don't know. Maybe someday. I'm not looking to do it. I think there's people that are already doing it really well, like Sean and Jen. I, you don't need me doing that. Um, but I'll tell you this, the Coal Baker. I'll tell you this. This one's free, okay? I'm never gonna do a debate. I don't think that live debates are uh, useful, and I don't think that they clarify ideas or uh, really help people understand issues better. I think they are usually just charisma contests, and I'm never going to win a charisma contest due to my naturally unlikable demeanor. I know I got more questions. Where are my questions at? I want to see all the questions. Where's my questions? No borders, no nations, no racist deportations asks, "Sexual orientation?" Um, I, uh, hmm. I am heteroflexible. Uh, I, I've only ever been with women. Uh, I'm probably only ever going to be with women, but the occasional man is sexually attractive to me. Um, uh, Chris Evans in the first Captain America movie, um, when he comes out of the machine, I was like, hmm. Boo. Moving on to curious cat questions. Uh, Anonymous asks, "What's your answer for the economic calculation problem?" I'm going to assume you're one of the ANCAPs that likes to visit me every time one of the other ANCAPs does one of their little response videos to me. Um, I don't have a particularly compelling answer to the economic calculation problem because I am not an economist. But as I understand it, it is more of a problem for market economies than it would be for the gift economy that I'm proposing. If people just make shit as they need it, then you don't really have to calculate the price because you're not charging for it. You just make as many as you need, and then if you don't have enough, you make more, and if you have too many, then you stop making them and you have extra. Feel free to complain about my answer in the comments. Um, I look forward to all of your ableist slurs. Proskep from YouTube, whose channel you can look at in the description down there. Do you think that the right to gun ownership is essential for the protection of workers' rights? As a Hoosier, I've grown up around lots of hunting rifles and people with gun collections. So when I travel to states like New Jersey, where state law and opinion on guns is radically different, it always baffles me that liberals and progressives would voluntarily want their defense against fascism taken away from them. Also, what's your favorite gem? ProSkep, thank you so much for that incredibly divisive question that will make everybody mad at me in the comments. To answer your question, I don't really know. I kind of see two sides to the issue. Number one, obviously you're right. There's no way for the working class to protect themselves without guns if their enemies have guns. But on the other hand, there's a lot of school shootings and murders and suicides that happen because of guns that I'm not a big fan of. So my opinion is developing. I'm sorry that that's unsatisfying, but I don't really have a very fleshed out view of it at the moment. Maybe that'll change in the future, but right now I'm still kind of deciding how I feel. And my favorite crystal gem is Garnet. I don't know if she counts for reasons that are kind of a spoiler, but she would be my favorite, especially season 1 when she's got the big boxy haircut. I love that design. It's probably my favorite character design of all time. So yeah, Garnet is my favorite gem. Anonymous asks, are you vegan? And if not, why did you choose to support one of the most exploitative industries on the planet, animal agriculture, instead of another considerably less exploitative one, plant agriculture? Just an honest question here, not asking this in venom. Well, yeah, I am. I'm a vegan. I'm a soy boy, to the surprise of literally no one. With one major caveat. Obviously, I feed my cats meat, and I will continue to do so. Cats are obligate carnivores, and they have to eat meat. Some people think they don't, and those people are slowly killing their cats. These cats are my responsibility, and I didn't become a vegan to let animals suffer, especially not my precious babies. And if you have a problem with that, you can bite me on my fat ass. Do you have a favorite anarchist YouTuber like Submedia, Libertarian Socialist Rants, or Old Bad Mouse Productions? Well, there's those. I also like a bunch of other ones. And you know, like, just off the top of my head, there's Tom Avella, there's Gwen No Fear, whose content you should really watch because she's about to get demonetized. And so just look in the description and you can help her out. Watch all of her content, watch it all, or I'll find you. There's Herbal HRT Garden, who I quite like. There's a guy called Comrade Maxwell who appears to have stopped making videos, but he basically makes my content but better. So if you like my channel, you should definitely check his out. I like a guy called Flea Market Socialist. He does these really funny videos where he teaches you crimes. I really like Narco. She does really well-researched videos, and she really knows her stuff, so she's someone you should definitely check out. American Anarchist, the Bronx Blogger. Yeah, there's a shitload of great leftist content on YouTube. I've linked a lot of these channels in the description. If you're hungry for that delicious leftist content, just get down there, scoop it all up, and watch it, and become as weird and alienating to your social circle as I am. So Ron has some questions for me. Ron asked a few questions. Ron asks, first of all, what made you decide to start making videos? Was there something specifically that you decided you wanted to respond to? Or was it just a gradual process? Or were you hating someone else's call to arms, so to speak? There's a lot of reactionaries on YouTube that say mean things and are terrible and toxic. And I wanted to counter that a little. So that's really why. Uh, Ron also asks, were you really a part of the seduction community, as Wikipedia politely puts it? Because the video you made about that seemed pretty personal. Yes, sadly, I was. I'm very ashamed of that at this point in my life, as I should be. Um, I wasn't so much part of a community in that, like, I knew any of the people in it, but I definitely believed all of the garbage that they say. Uh, and I tried a lot of their techniques to limited success. And yeah. Um, and so part of my motivation for making that video was I thought to myself, well, at some point people are gonna figure out who I am, and they're gonna find all of the most problematic things I've ever done. And so I started thinking, well, what's the worst thing I've ever done? And that was it. So I decided I would get out ahead of it and make a video about how shitty it is. I think it's important to own up to things like that. In a lot of ways, as I explained in the video, I think that uh, PUA culture kind of victimizes men, but in a larger and I think more meaningful sense, it victimizes women. So it was important for me to take stock of the fact that I was part of that, and to find a way to reconcile that with how I see myself now. And I think in a large part I did that. Um, yeah, so that's that. It's very embarrassing, as you can imagine. Ron also asks, are there any people making videos on YouTube that really grind your gears? Is there anyone who specifically provokes your ire, and maybe explaining why would be cool too? Ron, I hate all of the same reactionaries that I'm sure you do. I hate Paul Joseph Watson. I hate Sargon of Akkad. I hate uh, No Bullshit and Bearing and all of these wieners that get on YouTube and just say mean stuff to trans people. They're all trash. But you know, something I think we spend a bit too much time doing on the left is complaining about garbage people. So I try not to make that the focus of my work. Not to mention, also, I think there are people that are doing it a lot better than I would ever be able to. So someone like Sean and Jen, or as mentioned previously, Gwen No Fear, uh, they do a good job of the Bronx blogger as well. They do a good job of kind of meeting these people where they are and taking them down bit by bit. Um, so if you're looking for content like that might be a good place to find it. I don't think it's a really good fit for me, but Ron asks, what sort of socialist and or anarchist texts have you read, and what would you recommend? Now, Ron. I did kind of answer this earlier, so here's another book that I would recommend. It's not necessarily explicitly anarchist, but it's called A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. It's a very eye-opening book, especially if you are kind of not familiar with the realities of American history, or really, in a lot of ways, European history in general. The school system teaches us history in a very propagandistic way, and I don't want to, sound melodramatic, but they're brainwashing us to make us into obedient zombies. This book does a good job of showing you what history looked like for the people who didn't write the history books. So I think it's indispensable knowledge for anyone that wants to dismantle oppressive hierarchies, particularly in North America. Ron asks, do you participate in political actions where you live? Marches, rallies, that kind of thing? If so, what kind of political actions do you participate in? Do you have any interesting stories? No, Ron. I'm not proud to say that I definitely don't do as much activism as I should. Um, if you look in my YouTube description, you'll see that I describe myself as a smug anarchist poser, and that's kind of why. A lot of activism that takes place in the anarchist circles that I know about, it tends to take place during times when I'm busy, when I'm at work or if I'm out of town. Uh, so sadly, I don't I don't really get out as much as I wish I did. Um, if you know of any activism taking place uh, in the Toronto area, let me know. I'd love to be more useful as a human being. Anonymous asks, I like the content of your videos, but what's with calling yourself King Cuck and the embarrassing animations? Well, Anonymous, it actually doesn't sound like you like my content at all. But to answer your question, I didn't want to show my face, um, and so I wanted to draw little cartoons, and I tried my best, and I'm sorry that it embarrassed you. The reason I call myself King Cuck is it's a larger philosophy uh, of how I wanted to approach my channel. Pretty much everything about my characterization, the way that I kind of talk with this is very affected, and it makes me sound like I, am a goofball. Uh, I drew myself as very bulbous and bucktooth, and people have said it looks like Timmy Turner from Fairly Odd Parents, which I didn't intend, but they're totally right. It does. Um, and I called him King Cuck, and the reason for that is you look at all of these guys out there, all of these reactionaries who have these personas that make them look like really tough and sophisticated, like they're always wearing suits and they have like skulls and they're carrying swords and they're like, you know, big and buff and muscly, and to me it just feels so pompous. So I wanted to do the exact opposite. I called my channel Thought Slime, like look how shitty my thoughts are, and I drew myself as this little goofy idiot, and I gave him a demeaning nickname, you know, because because I wanted to show that I had a sense of humor about myself. I guess I don't know. It seemed funny to me, and it still does, so I keep it. Anonymous asks, why have you yet to make a video upholding postatist hoxhakist? Man, fucking, hey, the left, we got too many words. We got too many words, too many tendencies. I know what these words mean. I don't know how to fucking pronounce them. Why are you making me pronounce all these crazy words in my Q&A video? I try to make little fun little cartoons for people, and I gotta pronounce a bunch of crazy words. Anonymous asks, why have you yet to make a video upholding posadist, hoxheist, dengist thought? Well, Anonymous, all of my videos are those three things. You have to read between the lines. I thought I made it pretty obvious, but I guess some people haven't figured it out yet. Leftist Aspie asked, and hey, I hope it's okay that I just used the word Aspie. It's the person's username. I wouldn't typically say it, but it's the person's username. I'm just reading it as I see it. They ask, what are your thoughts on mutualism? Mutualism is fine. I mean, a lot of my friends are liberals. No, I'm just kidding, mutualists. I'm just kidding. And I know you guys don't like it when people make fun of you, but I'm just having a laugh. You guys are anarchists. I'm just being a goofball. I don't agree that we should have any kind of market or money or labor vouchers or anything like that. But I don't disagree so strongly that it makes me think less of you. I just don't think it's necessarily the best way to go about things. I think we can completely work together, and I don't have any bad feelings towards mutualists at all. I think mutualists are comrades, in my opinion. They might not think so after those jokes I just made. Anonymous asks, do you have a reason for saying rich perverts? I do, Anonymous. I think it is perverse to have billions of dollars while other people are starving to death. And I wanted a word that conveyed how disgusting and spiritually pathetic I find rich people to be. So I settled on rich perverts. It's also true that rich people are sex monsters. And I think we're discovering that more and more. So that's why I say that. And if you have a lot of money, I don't like you. Anonymous asks, is there a peaceful path to socialism? Do you think the Western governments, like Sweden, will continue to increase pressure on the rich to redistribute wealth for the greater good? Or must a revolution happen for true equality? Well, first of all, Anonymous, I would dispute the idea that Western governments like Sweden have increased pressure on the rich to redistribute the wealth. I think there could be a peaceful path to socialism. I don't think it's likely. Uh, I think in the end there probably will have to be bloodshed. I hope not, but I don't think that people with all of the shit and all of the power are going to give it up willingly. So I think at some point there will have to be some sort of revolution. I don't think we're anywhere close to that right now. Um, but at some point, I do think so. Well, I think that's all of the questions. Um, someone asked on some platform how long I've had my cats. I can't find their question, so I don't know your name. I'm sorry. I've had them for 6 years. They're rescue cats, and believe it or not, they're from the same litter. I know they don't look alike, but they might have different fathers, but they're from the same litter. So they're my precious babies, and I'll die for them. Someone else asked if I'm involved in any anarchist groups like the IWW, um, and I lost that question too. Uh, no, I wish I were. I can't seem to get in touch with the with the Toronto branch of the IWW. I've sent them a couple of emails asking what to do, but they haven't gotten back to me, and their website isn't up, and they haven't posted on Twitter in a couple of years. So I'm thinking maybe that branch is inactive. So if anybody has any advice on who to reach out to, I would appreciate that. Comment below. Um, and that's all of the questions, I think. Apologies if I didn't get to yours. Feel free to ask it again, and I'll answer it where I see it. Um, and I want to say a sincere thank you to everybody that helped me get to 1,000 subscribers and who's been supporting me with their views and with their attention. I appreciate it sincerely. I know that my face and mannerism make it difficult to take anything I say sincerely, but it does mean a lot to me, and it I'm very touched and pleased by the support I've received, and I hope to honor that by continuing to grow and make better content for you in the year to come. And yeah, that's this. Well, bye.